Hello, this is Senator Olympia Snowe. I first want to express my heartfelt gratitude to both the Margaret J. Smith Policy Center here at the University of Maine, my very own alma mater where I graduated, well, let's just say more years ago than I care to freely admit, and the University of Maine Cooperative Extension for co-sponsoring this wonderful event now in its 4th year. I also want to thank Mary Cathcart and Rebecca Smith, the co-directors of Maine New Leadership, for inviting me to speak with you today, as well as congratulate all of you on the remarkable accomplishment of being selected as members of its class of 2012. As you can imagine, this is a particularly bittersweet moment for me, as it's the last time that I'll address Maine New Leadership as a United States Senator. As I reflect upon my time in elective office, I'll never be able to fully convey what an honor and a privilege it has been to represent the people of Maine and the state that I love. And I am filled with immense gratitude for the chance to make a difference over the last 4 decades. Looking forward, though, I'm not only hopeful, but confident for the future of our nation, because I know it's such talented and inspiring young leaders like all of you who will be making the difference for generations to come. And indeed, there is no better place to begin than with this fantastic program, where undoubtedly one of the highlights will be your visit to our state legislature. As you may know, Maine has historically been a leader in women representation across the country, currently making up 23% of the state Senate and 31% of the state House. These ratios, while far from perfect, at least trump the U.S. House of Representatives and Senate, where only 17% of the seats are held by women. Of course, for the ultimate example of women in leadership in Maine and America, we must look no further than one of Maine's true legends, the incomparable Margaret J. Smith, who rose from the most humble of beginnings to the highest corridors of power. And because of her bravery, both in politics and in life itself, she inspired millions of young girls and became a role model for countless more women across our country, myself included. I still well recall the sense of awe I felt when I first met Senator Smith visiting Washington, D.C. as a senior in college and sitting across the desk from her. I never would have thought that because of the doors she opened, she would make it possible for me to one day sit at her very desk on the floor of the United States Senate. It was not that Senator Smith deliberately embarked on establishing some sort of precedent, especially since what Margaret J. Smith's life also proved is that gender was not the key factor in public service, but that dedication and energy and competence and ability, integrity and sheer courage were. Nowhere was that more evident than her seminal landmark Declaration of Conscience speech delivered in the spring of 1950, where she took on Senator Joseph McCarthy in his sensational and unsubstantiated charges against communist spies and Soviet-sponsored traitors throughout our government and in Hollywood. She managed to accomplish in 15 minutes what 94 of her colleagues, male colleagues I might add, had not dared to do, prompting American financier, presidential advisor Bernard Baruch to say that had a man made that speech, he would have become the next president of the United States. I also cannot help but note that this policy center is a non-partisan endeavor, which sets a predicate for consensus building that is the essence of leadership. Indeed, public service is ultimately about solving problems, and that is precisely what I will be speaking about in my post-Senate life. I intend to give voice to those who believe as I do, that we can and must return to civility in government, driven by a common purpose to fulfill the promise that is unique to America, in accordance with the very principles that formed the foundation of Margaret J. Smith's legendary life. Indeed, Margaret J. Smith is a role model, not just for our time, but for all time. So I cannot begin to imagine an academic forum more fitting to consider, inspire, and forge the leadership of women in the public arena than the Margaret J. Smith Policy Center. My hope is that you will harness all the knowledge and experience you come to gain here and envision a place for yourself in the public sphere, because Maine needs you and America needs you. Thank you again for allowing me to share some thoughts with you this evening.